According to a survey by the British Medical Association, 4 in 10 junior doctors are planning to actively leave the NHS as soon as they can find another job. And in a separate survey, a whopping 1 in 3 junior doctors are planning to leave the NHS within 2 years of graduating from medical school. And as I'm sure you guys know, a really big reason as to why these junior doctors are leaving the NHS is mainly due to the poor pay that we currently face, as well as other reasons like working conditions and the long time it takes to become a consultant. And one of the top locations of this brain drain is, you guessed it, the United States of America. What is going on, guys? My name is Kenji, welcome back to my channel. Hope it's not the first time you're watching one of my videos, but just in case it is, I'm a part-time doctor and entrepreneur working here in London. And I'm sure you guys have seen my previous videos where I compare the salary of doctors working in other countries like Australia. I'll leave the link to that up above here. But in this video, we'll be breaking down the salary of an intern doctor who's in their first year after graduation. One of my closest friends kindly provided a real copy of their payslip this year, and we'll be going through his entire salary to not only find out exactly how much he earned, but also all of the deductions like tax and everything else associated with his payslip. But before I go ahead and tell you guys exactly how much he earned in America, what I want to tell you guys is, firstly, why am I actually making this video? So if you guys have seen my previous videos, you know that I'm all about transparency. I've made multiple videos on my channel talking about how much I've earned as a junior doctor here in the UK, how much I've earned as a locum doctor, and also as an entrepreneur as well. So I think there's a huge advantage in being transparent and telling people exactly how much you earn. The reason being is, if you guys are watching my video and maybe you're interested in medicine, or maybe you're interested in starting your own business, no matter the reason why you're watching this video, I think money and how much you earn is a very important topic that sometimes here in the UK we're kind of shy to talk about, but I think it's super important. And I hope this video makes you make an informed decision. Maybe you're someone who wants to go to America, maybe you want to pursue medicine in the UK or Australia. No matter what position you're in, I do think this video can be somewhat beneficial to you in that aspect. The second thing is, I really do think we exist in an open market, especially how the world right now, it's so easy to fly around the world and to move countries. We do exist in an open market, and sometimes, being a doctor here myself in the UK, I know there's sometimes this feeling as if you're in a snow globe and you're in your own microenvironment, but the reality is, guys, we exist in an open market, and if you think there's a better opportunity elsewhere in the world, then it's something that's worth exploring, because if you want to live the best life possible for you and your family, then hopefully these videos can help you make that decision for your given life. But I know a lot of you guys are not really interested in looking at the breakdown analysis of how much my friend earned, so let's go ahead and jump straight into the final numbers, the final figures, comparing his salary as a first-year doctor in America compared to my salary as a first-year doctor here in the United Kingdom. So starting off with my UK salary, in the UK in my first year, so I was a foundation year 1 doctor, that was the first year after graduation of medical school, my income pre-tax, so before I paid any tax at all, was £29,384, and that was calculated for an average 40-hour work week. However, I was paid more in certain specialties, because in certain specialties I had to work on-call shifts, so I'd be working weekends, I was working nights sometimes, and working out of hours. But in the specialties where I was working a 9-to-5 job, like in psychiatry, no weekends, no nights, no on-calls, a 40-hour standard work week, that's exactly how much I earned, and that's perfect because we'll be comparing my 40-hour work week to my friend's 40-hour work week in America. So after taking tax out of my salary, my post-tax monthly average, so that was actually the figure that was hitting my bank account, was £1,931.02. And if we look at my hourly rate, so how much I was earning per hour, that actually worked out to £14.08 per hour. And after tax, that was my pre-tax income. But after tax, my hourly rate ended up being about £9.86, which, if you ask me, that is absolutely shocking for a doctor. I was probably earning more when I was 18, 19, working in a bar in London, but that's how much I was earning essentially working as a doctor in my first year from graduating. So let's compare and contrast to my friend's salary there in America. So as I said, he was a first-year intern doctor, so just after graduating from medical school. Again, this was kindly provided to me by one of my friends. I'll leave his Instagram page up on the screen if you want to hit him up, support him, or ask him any questions at all. So in the US, he was earning about pre-tax $55,190, which equals to about £41,632. And again, that was his pre-tax income. This again was averaged to about a 40-hour work week, so the same as what I was working in the UK for 40 hours that week. In terms of what was actually hitting his bank account, so his post-tax monthly average, so month to month, he was earning about £2,480.42 per month. And in terms of his hourly pay pre-tax, so that was £21.66 per hour. And if we look at how much he actually earned per hour after tax, that worked out to about £15.50. So you guys can clearly see here that he was earning significantly more than I was in his first year after graduation from medical school. I won't go into the nuances of why that is and, the reasons why, but that is a gross summary of the final figures when comparing my UK income in my first year post-graduation from medical school to his over there in America. But before we move on to the rest of the video where we actually break down his salary in detail, I want to tell you guys quickly about Kenhub, who are kindly sponsoring the video. Kenhub is the #1 online learning platform that I used during medical school to learn my anatomy, and I still use to this day as a doctor. And the reason for that is that it combines multiple effective tools for learning both your anatomy and your physiology as well. When I used Kenhub to actually learn anatomy, it was honestly such an enjoyable experience, and the reason being is because they have a number of interactive quizzes that makes learning actually fun. They have fantastic colorful pictures, engaging videos, and detailed articles that makes learning your anatomy such an enjoyable experience, and so much easier as well. So all the content you need to know is nicely organized, which makes mastering that given topic very easy. And here is an example of a study unit. They have loads of different types of quizzes that are based on difficulty, and all of the videos on Kenhub also contain transcripts, captions, and video speed controllers, so you're able to jump to different areas of the video that you want to watch. One of the ways that I actually mastered anatomy is by constantly quizzing myself. And the really unique thing about Kenhub is you're actually able to create custom quizzes so you can tailor the knowledge that you need to learn for yourself. I also really liked how they have these muscle anatomy reference cards, which are kind of like cheat sheets that contain all of the functions of the different muscles, the innervations, the insertions, the origins, which made learning that content super easy for me. If you guys want to check out Kenhub for yourself, they actually have a free version that you can try out. However, if you decide to upgrade to the premium version, you can actually get 10% off using my link on any premium plan. And just for your peace of mind, they actually have a 7-day money back guarantee. So if you don't like it and you change your mind, you can get your money back, no questions asked. That's Kenhub. Let's go ahead and jump into the rest of the payslip. When looking at this payslip, I just want to mention a bit of basic housekeeping as well to give you a bit of context around the payslip that we're looking at. And as I mentioned, this is coming from one of my good friends who's working in America, and I want to give you guys a bit of context about the whole American system and how it actually works. It's important to also bear in mind that this is obviously comparing a private healthcare system and the pay for a doctor in that private system versus me working in a public healthcare system in the NHS. So of course that is a bit of difference. My friend actually was working in North Carolina. So if you have good geography, unlike myself, about America, you know that North Carolina is actually a state within the United States of America, and each state is slightly governed very differently. So the pay that you see across this payslip might actually differ from a different doctor working in a different state in America. So that's useful to bear in mind. And as I mentioned previously in the video, he's working as a doctor in his internship year. So that's in his first year after graduating from medical school. He actually went to medical school here in the UK with one of my other friends. And I'll be doing a full video about his transition from the UK to working in America. And if the video is out yet, I'll leave the link up there if you want to check that full podcast out. But let's go ahead and quickly touch on the actual route to show you guys where he is in his training. So as you guys can see here, in America, they do a degree before they actually enter medical school, which is pre-med, and that's their undergraduate degree. That tends to be about 4 years, and then they move on to get into medical school, which again tends to be another 4 years. They then do the entrance exams like the USMLE Part 1, finish off medical school after doing the USMLE Part 2, and then you can see here in the picture, he's actually in his PGY1, so postgraduate year 1, which is his internship. They then move on to residency, fellowship, and board certification later on, but that's pretty much where he's in his training. This would be the equivalent to the, as I said previously to myself back in the day, which was me as an FY1 doctor, or as we call it here in the UK, a foundation year 1 doctor. And similarly to the UK, how much you actually earn depends on your seniority and your experience as well. So you can expect that the salary they're about to look at would go up year to year as he becomes more senior within the American healthcare system. And that's a similar thing again that we have here in the UK. Year to year, you do earn more money as you work your way up to become a consultant. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into his actual payslip. Now, the first thing to notice at the top here is the pay period beginning and the pay period ending. This payslip is actually how much you earned over a 2-week period. So in the interest of numbers and comparison and making that a bit easier, I'll be doubling all of these figures so you have an idea of how much he earned across 1 month. So bear that in mind as well. So this works out to him working about 40 hours on average per week. However, speaking to him, he told me that some weeks he was, let's say, on study leave, so he only worked, let's say, 10 hours. Sometimes he was also in a very difficult specialty, so he would be working 80 hours that week. And other weeks he might be doing 40 hours because he's in clinic. But roughly on average, he's working around 40 hours per week. So for that given week, we can see that his gross pay, and this is pre-deductions, so pre any tax or anything like that, he actually earned $2,299.62. And if we convert that into pounds, that works out to be about £1,732.93 for 2 weeks, working out to £3,465.86 per month pre-deductions. And if we convert that to his actual hourly rate, so working a 40-hour work week, that works out to about £21.66 per hour. Now let's move on to looking at how much was actually taken from his salary, so all of the deductions that came before the actual money got to his bank account. So it's worked out a bit different in America. They have the pre-tax deductions, so how much they take before they actually tax him. They have the employee taxes, which we'll go into in a bit more detail later on. And then also the post-tax deductions. So after they take the tax from his bank account, there's a few more things that they also take into account and minus from his actual pay. If we take into account all of these deductions they took out, so the pre-tax, the employee taxes, and the post-tax deductions, his net pay, so his take-home pay that actually entered his bank account, was $1,645.77, and that is again his total income that entered his bank account. And all these deductions, interestingly, worked out to be about 28.4% as a percentage of his total income. And we'll convert that into pounds as a final figure later on, but let's go ahead and look into further details about the deductions that he had. Now I want to specifically start talking about his employee taxes, because that's quite useful, I guess, for us as workers here in the UK. So in terms of his employee taxes and how much he paid for tax, he paid $441.31 towards tax. Converting that into pounds was about £665.12 per month for the total month, which worked out to him paying about 19% of his salary directly to his employee taxes. Looking into what his employee taxes actually encompass, so we can see over here in this little table exactly what was part of that amount they took. So it's a bit different to the UK tax that we pay, which has my income tax. I also pay national insurance for my NHS contributions and things like that separately, as well as my student loan, but his is actually slightly different. So let's go ahead and look into this little table here. So the first thing as part of his taxes was his social security. And in my understanding, the social security in America is how much the employee pays as a proportion of their earnings towards social security, which helps fund things like retirement, disability, and survivor benefits. And I guess we can compare that to the national insurance that we pay here in the UK. And that worked out to about $138. He also paid for Medicare. And again, in my understanding, Medicare is a tax that funds healthcare for retirees and those with certain disabilities as well. And again, Social Security and Medicare combined is the same thing or similar thing to the national insurance which we have here in the UK. That was about $32.30 that he paid. Now, also as part of his taxes, he paid for federal withholding. So that is the federal income tax withheld as part of the employee's earnings, which in the UK is equivalent to what we pay as income tax via PAYE. So this is the actual tax that he's paying to the American government. Additionally, and also very interestingly, he also pays for the state tax. So he pays tax to the American government as a whole, but also to that particular state, which is North Carolina. So that's the state income tax that's deducted for working in North Carolina. And again, very interestingly, the state tax in America actually varies from state to state. So some states, I think in my understanding, like Florida, have lower income taxes and are more like tax havens for American citizens. But other places like New York are also very heavily taxed in how much they pay towards their state tax. But anyways, he paid about $80. And altogether, if we add up all of these different figures, his total employee tax, like I said, was $441, which we can see down here. Now, let's look at his pre-tax deductions. So like I said earlier on in the video, his pre-tax deductions is how much is actually taken from his bank account before he's actually paid tax. So that worked out to be about $74.56, which equals £112.37 per month in the UK equivalent amount. So we can see down here here the total was 74.56 for that given 2 weeks. Now, the reason why this is really interesting and why I find it fascinating that they have a pre-tax deduction is, if you think about it, it actually reduces the total amount of tax that this person pays because they take away certain things and certain contributions as part of his payslip. So let's go ahead and break that down into further detail. So the first thing we can see over here is the CFV vision plan. Now, this is a deduction that I believe covers his vision insurance or his eye insurance, which helps pay for things like eye exams, glasses, or any contact lenses that he might wear. That vision plan works out to about $5.95 for that given month. He also contributes towards a dental deduction. So dental being how much he pays towards dental insurance, which helps costs related to his dental care, such as cleaning his teeth, fillings, and other dental general treatments. That works to about $11.79 in total. So he also contributed towards his health PPO-NON, which I believe stands for the Health Preferred Provider Organization Plan, which is essentially a type of health insurance. He paid $56.82 for that. And again, the total amount for the pre-tax deduction was $74.56. And the reason why I wanted to mention this, like I said, is it's very interesting how, like with the Australian salary that I looked in further detail, guys, they actually take into consideration things before they take, tax from your salary, which again helps you pay less tax. And I wish we had that here in the UK, but unfortunately we do not. Finally, let's look at the last bit of deduction, which was his post-tax deductions. So after they took away his pre-tax deductions, they then took away a certain amount for his tax. And then once they have that final figure there, they then take away a few more things as part of the post-tax deduction. And there was only really one thing that they took over there, which was the 403B plan, which worked out to about $137.98. And in total, the UK equivalent in pounds was 207.96 pennies per month in that total month. And if we look at what the actual 403B plan is, that's actually the equivalent or similar to the workplace pension that we pay here in the UK. And that is a workplace occupational pension scheme for this given doctor in his profession. Now, I've already gone through the taxable wages down here. I won't touch on the employer paid benefits down in this table here, but if you want to actually look into this in more detail, I encourage you to do so. I also won't be talking about here the actual allowances and additional withholding that you get if you were married or in a civil partnership and things like that, because I believe in America you do get certain federal and state benefits for being married. But let's go ahead and skip all of that and look at the final figure that I mentioned earlier on. So after they took all of these deductions from his salary, the total figure, like I mentioned, to hit his bank account was $1,645.77, which works out to about £1,240 for 2 weeks. If we double that to look at his total monthly amount, that was £2,480.42 for that given total amount that finally hit his bank account. So that's a very brief summary, but if you also want to look at the breakdown of my UK salary, I'll leave a link up above for you guys to go ahead and check out. But grossly, just summarizing all of these things, like what are my personal thoughts on all of this? Well, we can obviously see here that he's earning around £500 per month more than I was. Of course, I had a few things that I also had to pay out of my salary, like my student loan and things like that. So for the same amount of hours that I worked here in the UK, he was earning significantly more than I was. But also, do bear in mind that this person would be older than the actual doctor at the same level in their careers. And the reason being, again, is that in America, they do a second degree first. So you can expect that this person, on average, may have more expenses. It's not uncommon for some people to have children at this stage of their training in America, compared to someone in the UK who would graduate a bit earlier on, being about 22 or 23 years old, compared to in America where they might be 27, 28 years old. So that's one thing to bear in mind. But most importantly, in America, this person or my friend's income would significantly increase year on year, much quicker than it would here in the UK working in the NHS, but also their training to become a consultant is much, much shorter. So bear in mind, here in the UK, there is a huge loss due to the extended time of your training. For example, in America, to become a pediatrician or a dermatologist, you're looking at roughly half the amount of time it takes, that it would take here in the UK to become that sort of specialist. So in the UK, if you're spending double the amount of time to train to become a consultant, you're also getting paid much less because you're not considered a specialist just quite yet. There's a huge loss there because of the extended time it takes to reach the top of your pay bracket due to this length of training. And even if you finally reach the end of the treadmill here in the UK and you do become a consultant, once you finish your training in America, you're looking at an average roughly amount of 3 times your gross annual salary as compared to working here in the UK. So your earnings in America as a doctor are significantly higher. And I'll leave it at that, guys. I would encourage you to do a lot more research about the different pathways in America and how it all works, and also look in more detail the different salaries depending on what specialty you're in, because unlike in the UK, how much you earn also depends on the certain specialty that you're working in. But I hope this video has been somewhat informative for you guys. If it has done, please leave it a like, make sure to subscribe with notifications on, leave a comment down below with your own personal opinion on what you think about the UK versus US salary. I'd be really interested to know. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.